All right, Chris, how you doing? Nice
Good,
meeting you.
man.
I haven't met you before, so this is the first time.
Yes.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you on the podcast. So,
You gonna tell them how we met?
yeah, exactly. Let's go for that first. Yeah, you can actually explain how we met.
Well, I was just explaining it to my kids.
Yeah.
They're like, "You're going to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "With who?" I'm like, "Well, remember when I did the project?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I'm doing it with a guy that did the project too. He was in a different class." Like, "Oh, that's super cool." I'm like, "Yeah, I haven't met him, but you know what? He finished it. So that tells me all I need to know."
Yeah. Explain what the project is. Go from A to Z.
Okay. I'll explain it, and then I want you to explain it
Okay.
because it actually is kind of hard to explain.
It is.
I tell people it was a 75-hour mental toughness experience on a level that is kind of hard to describe.
Beyond comprehensible.
You know what I mean? Like physical, mental, emotional, you name it. But just imagine for 75 straight hours getting your ass kicked,
right.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, getting challenged, all from a place of love, right? I mean, like all from a genuine place of love, but it was 75 straight hours of mental toughness and giving it your all.
Right.
Most of my class failed. I'm sure most of your class did too. I think we had 33 or 32 people that signed up, and they paid a lot of money to sign up.
Yeah.
25% of them didn't even show.
I had the same experience.
Didn't even show.
Yeah.
So there goes their money.
Yeah.
One guy photoshopped a plane ticket and said his flight was canceled. And Steve, like, I mean, how lame can you be? But this goes to kind of to the purpose of what the project is. If you think about it, where like a man literally, instead of just being honest with himself and people, photoshopped a plane ticket and said, "Hey, my flight was canceled. I can't make it." Right. And so it was just wild. So 30% of them didn't show up. I think within the first 24 hours, another third of them either rang the bell, got hurt, or canceled. We had a lot of people get sick, like rhabdo.
So think of like, I would analogy is good, like a Navy SEAL Hell Week, I guess, and condensed into like 3 days, basically.
It's that, but again, I think it's more than that. You know, you got men from all walks of life that went there for their own reasons.
Right.
I went there for my own reasons and not totally knowing what to expect. And I think everybody goes into it wanting, you know, probably whether they realize it or not, there was obviously some very profound reasons for them to literally volunteer themselves to go to this and get what they need out of it.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I mean, basically, when we first got there was 29 guys, and then 27, right, you stay the night in that hotel. 2 people didn't actually show that morning, so they actually just kind of bailed. So they were there for the dinner, and the next morning we got to get going, and they didn't even show up. So they just kind of walked out, and you never saw them again. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I mean, my experience was just about the same. It was just intense right from the beginning.
Why'd you sign up though?
I think I signed up because I wanted to I wanted to measure myself against other men to see if I'm above and beyond what I thought I was. Yeah. And maybe it was just an ego thing too, but I really wanted to measure myself not only against other men, but also you hear about this, you know, Navy SEAL training. You hear about this type of top tier training that you get from the instructors that were there. There was, you know, a Marine Raider there. There was a Navy SEAL instructor. There was guys in the military. So I've always had this kind of mental thought like, wow, can I measure up to that? And yeah. And so I think that was kind of my thought when I first walked in there. And I went solo. I never even got onto those 5 a.m. calls. And I think that's kind of my detriment to myself. I never got into the brotherhood at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I thought I'm going to just do this mentally like I do everything else by myself. And then when I got there, everyone had a camaraderie. Everyone was kind of already on like a team, and I kind of was the outsider. So when they saw me, they immediately thought I was going to fail because they thought that,
oh, really?
Yeah. They were like, who is this guy? This guy wasn't even on the team. You know, he didn't do anything to prepare. Bullshit, I prepared. Yeah. And so honestly, it's just the mindset that I had was I've always thought of myself as an only person, you know, single, came from a single mother, and, you know, I've always done everything by myself. And I found out that was a detriment. You know, trying to do things always by yourself is actually a detriment. And so when I realized, hey, you need people to actually succeed, you need people to, like a camaraderie to actually get further in business too and in life, it was a big eye opener for me. And so not always doing things by yourself all the time.
That was the only way to survive. Those 75 hours. It's literally the only way.
Yeah.
And I agree, man. Like I literally, there's a couple moments moments in my life that I think kind of shaped the trajectory of who I am today, and some good, some bad. I just felt like at that point very complacent in life.
Okay.
And I tell the story to people because it's like, by everybody else's standards, everything was great, right?
Yeah.
Had good marriage, good kids. Most people's standards, I was probably killing it in life, but I didn't feel it. You know what I mean? Just didn't feel it. And that was an internal thing. And so I signed up for that for more of the same reasons, because I wanted to see where I stood against other men.
Yeah.
A lot of people signed up for brotherhood, and they needed that. And, and that's awesome. That wasn't why I did it. I literally wanted to see where I stood, and I wanted to put myself in like a do or die position. And it was one of those things because, and we talked about this, like the only way somebody was going to graduate that, if they in their heart made the decision of, I am going to complete this or die trying.
Correct.
And there was nothing in the middle. And I think that's such a great metaphor for life, because, you know, in my business of insurance and financial services, a big part of what I do is mentor new agents and advisors into this business. And I try to sniff that out as quick as I can, because if somebody's got that 1 foot in, 1 foot out mentality, or I'm going to give it a try. There's a lot of interested people in this world. There's very few committed people. And I try to sniff that out as quick as I can, honestly, to save them time and heartache and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because business is hard. The Modern Day Night Project was fucking hard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That is literally the only decision.
The metaphor for life.
It is, man. There's no plan B. You got to burn the boats.
Yeah, exactly. And I say that all the time: burn the boats, or just get off my boat. Really, basically, right? I mean, essentially. Yeah. So I had the same mentality when I walked in there. It was like, either I'm going to graduate, or you're going to pull me off on a stretcher. You're not. I'm not going to quit.
How many ended up graduating your class?
So there was, I think there was 27 of us, and I think only 7 graduated. So about 7.
You guys had a low percentage. Yeah. So I think of the 20 or 30 some odd that signed up, I think we had 11 or 12 graduates, which was, from what I was told, which was pretty average.
So talk about that mindset, man. Talk about that mindset. Either you have 1 foot in or 1 foot out. And talk about that in sales too, and kind of what you do as a financial advisor, not advisor, but I'd say more of a consultant to mentor folks.
Yeah. So listen.
Let me cut you off here, because I get this all the time. Hey, I want to be in real estate. That's
Oh, I'm sure.
All the time.
Same thing. Yeah.
From every walks of life, I get it and every age. I've been thinking about getting into real estate. I'm like, do you really know what that entails?
A couple of years ago, I'm sure everybody was saying that.
All the time.
I don't know so much.
No, still to today. I get that all the time. I mean, I've been thinking about getting into real estate. I've been thinking about getting my real estate. It's like, do you really know what that entails? And talk about that, and just that mindset you have to have for business.
Yeah. So listen, man, I think now more than ever, the idea of becoming an entrepreneur and business owner is so freaking glamorized.
Yeah.
It just is, right? And I don't think people really understand just how hard it is. Like Elon Musk talks about it, where it's basically, he's like, when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, like you're signing up to, forget how he said it, but it's like you're signing up to eat glass every day.
Correct.
Eat shit sandwiches every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We could literally spend an entire podcast on this, because it's my belief that the only way I know how to create time and financial freedom in this world is through business ownership.
Right.
Like, unless you're lucky enough to inherit millions of dollars from wealthy Uncle Bob, like, I don't know another way on how somebody could create true and legitimate time and financial freedom.
Right.
Maybe that's not a value for certain people. For me, it is. It's everything. So I'm willing to fight and die for it.
Right.
Is my point. I just don't know if everybody is willing to make the sacrifices and investments it takes to be able to do that. You know what I mean? And listen, I don't even consider myself an entrepreneur or business owner, to be honest with you. I've been kind of coining this term freedompreneur, because this is why I love our industry.
I like that, freedompreneur.
Yeah, well, let me explain it, right? If you're a business owner, you got to pay this rent. You probably got insurance. He probably has to pay insurance, because if we are to slip here in this podcast room, he might get in trouble, right? He probably, you got employees, you got all kinds of stuff that you have to deal with to run inventory. You know what I mean? Like, same thing with an entrepreneur, right? In our industry, you spend a couple $100 to get a license, and you got a license to print money. And then really it just becomes sweat equity into what you want to get out of it.
Correct.
But I don't got to worry about legal, employees, overhead, franchise fees, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Man. Like I just got to find a model and a business that works for me and go serve and help people.
Sure.
And I could legitimately start creating a business for myself.
Right.
And that's how I look at that as being different. Like me and my family have core values, and one of them is adventure. We love to travel. 4 years ago, instead of doing a bunch of Christmas presents, we decided to do presents over presents. Mm-hmm. So instead of doing a bunch of presents, we go on a big family trip. We started 4 years ago. We did Costa Rica, then Hawaii, then Mexico, and then just a couple, whatever it was, a month ago, we went and checked out the French Polynesia.
Cool.
Right? My point in telling you this is like owning a business is awesome, but I know a lot of business owners that don't have time and financial freedom. They are married to their business.
Right.
And if they love it, then that's what they want to do. And I think that that's awesome. But I think the vast majority of them don't, personally. So this whole freedompreneur thing, for me, I think it's more about creating an intentional lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own definition of success, and most of it's tied to money and finances, and that's just not how I look at it. Yes, it's absolutely freaking important.
Right.
Probably up there as one of the top important things, but like tomorrow on a Friday, I want to work and do the things that I'm going to do, which I have some awesome meetings lined up with my team. Mm-hmm. You know what else I want to do? I want to take my daughter to her hitting lesson.
Right.
Because it's important to me and it's fun. I want to take my son to his pitching lesson because I like working with them doing that. And I want to be able to do that
how I want
to do it.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. And the price you have to pay to get there is a big price. I've been in this industry since I was 17 years old. Like I joke about being the only guy you'll ever meet that grew up wanting to be an insurance agent and financial advisor, but that was just my path. I just stuck with it.
You know what I mean? So you've been wanting to do this since you were 17, huh?
I'll tell you the funny story about how I got into this industry. So after high school, I was working at a gym. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to play football, so I played at Sierra College. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't very good. So the only way, and I wasn't very big either, the only way I could play was I played soccer a lot, so I could kick the ball. Mm-hmm. So I was really good at kicking field goals and kickoffs, and I was like, this is my way to play football. So that's what I did, and realized really quickly that even at a junior college level, I didn't have the skills and abilities to do it, right? And I wasn't going to be Rudy, right? Like I think the whole movie of Rudy, I think, is bullshit because it's like clearly he wasn't meant for football.
Yeah.
And if he would have spent some time and just found out what he was good at and spent all that effort into that, it'd be an entirely different movie and arguably a much better movie. You know what I mean? And so, anyways, not to get completely off tangent, but I was working at a gym selling memberships, and they even had me training people, which is funny because I wasn't even a personal trainer. And there's a guy who was a regular member, okay? And he was either driving an Escalade or a Porsche. And I swear every month or two, he was traveling the world. And I'm like, what the frick does this guy do? And we would talk here and there and stuff like that. And then one day, he's like, hey, Chris, I got this insurance thing going on. And I need some help just like around the office. And like, before he even finished the sentence, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this dude's obviously very successful.
Right.
I know that I want to be successfs, so maybe I could learn from him. Right. And it was one of those stories where I literally started as the receptionist, the first male receptionist. And then again, just one of those things where I stuck with it. This is a tendency in my life to stick to things and be committed. I met my wife in high school. She's my high school sweetheart. We stayed together ever since. In a very transient industry, probably no different than real estate, where people bounce around and stuff like that. I've literally only had 2 homes in 24, 25 years or whatever it's been.
Right.
And I just stuck with it, and I'm glad I did because I think it's an amazing industry. It's big. There's a lot of knuckleheads in this space. You know what I mean?
Same here.
But like, at least last time I checked, you know. By the statistics, it creates more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. And it's like, okay, I want to make a lot of money, but I also want to do it the right way. Like I want to help people. I want to provide a service and something that I believe in. And so that's just kind of how it evolved. And so from like I sold insurance and paid my way through college to working as a wholesaler to an agency director. And then I decided to get out of that space about 10 years ago because it was funny. I was a W-2 employee, but completely paid performance based.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, kind of defeated the purpose.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And so 10, 11 years ago, I decided to cut ties with that and start my own business.
Talk to me about your current business and how it performs and what you actually do in that business.
Yeah, for sure. So it's evolved. But as of right now, so I run the largest team at Appreciation Financial. Been there now for 10 years. It's Team Apex. I love the guys. They are my people. A lot of these people are honestly personal friends. We travel together. Our families spend time together. And I've been here long enough. It's kind of crazy. Like one of my top guys, he joined 9 years ago, and he was in healthcare. So the story that I'm telling you is why I do what I do. So I want to make sure I'm not rambling here, but he joined our company 9 years ago. He literally joined on accident, or I'm sorry, he applied on accident. Mm-hmm. So he was applying for other healthcare jobs. And I think what happened was he was on his phone and he got like a ZipRecruiter alert and he's like, sure, right? And lo and behold, he applied for like an insurance job. And when one of our hiring managers called him, he literally was like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking, I'm looking for healthcare. And our guy was at least good enough to say, dude, his name's Dimitri. Dimitri, just come in, like, let's talk and let's see where it goes. Long story short, he joined his first year, six-figure earner, been a six-figure earner ever since. That guy in the last 3 years has made more money, like multiple seven figures, than he would have in his healthcare management job. It would have taken him 25 years to make that kind of money.
Right.
And he got married. They just bought a new home. He literally, a couple weeks ago, just had his first baby. And so like for all of that to happen, like within my team, and to know that I had like this little small part of that, to me is the coolest thing in the world, right? And so when you ask what I do, like that is what I do. So I like most of my efforts right now outside of running the business and stuff like that is working with and mentoring new and aspiring agents and advisors that want to get into business for themselves.
How long have you been doing it? How long has it taken you to get from when you started at that receptionist to now where you're at now?
24 years.
24 years.
I'm 43. I just turned 43 and I technically started there as the receptionist at 17.
Talk to me about the mindset from starting from the bottom up. I think that most people want to start at the top and want to learn from the top down. And the fact that you have to put in the grind, you have to put in the effort, you have to find that. You talked about finding that right person that's going to actually you weed those people out that don't have that mindset. You know, what is that mindset? If you can kind of elaborate on that. And actually, there's so many questions I have.
No, I know.
It's like, do you think you really have to check yourself when you say, I want to be in real estate, I want to be in insurance, because you really know what that entails? What's that mindset you have to have?
I think like the number one quality, I don't know if you call it a mindset or what, is like somebody's just got to be freaking hungry.
Right. Burn the boats.
Yeah, they just got to have the hunger. They got to have the genuine desire to want to like do good and be somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's really hard to like quantify. Like I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on assessment tests and science and, you know, intricate interviewing techniques to try to figure this stuff out when I'm sitting in front of people. And there's literally no test. There's no quiz. There's no way to tell the size of somebody's heart, right? Their level of integrity, their level of commitment, their hunger. Are they coachable? Are they really hardworking?
Right.
I wish it was different. Like I wish if I was sitting in front of somebody and interviewing them, they would be honest and be like, you know what? Like my work ethic is like a 6 out of 10, and I have integrity unless it comes to like money or like I wish it was that easy, but it's just not. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the right answer, but again, what I believe is it literally all comes down to just hunger and grit.
Grit.
And that's the beautiful thing about your industry and my industry is you don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars and college degrees and all that kind of stuff to make it.
Yeah. You just need the mindset.
You need you need a goal
and grit.
You need a freaking mindset and grit and a plan.
Now, I think that kind of relates back to the MDK project where there's so many different people. There was such a vast majority of different types of people, and the big strong people and the big, the scrawny guy. But you would think looking at that person that they were going to make it, and they were like some of the first people to actually quit.
100%.
Physically just a beast. And then 100%. You would think, oh God, he's going to make it. But then they're the first person to ring the bell.
Almost all the stereotypical alpha males were gone.
Yeah.
Freaking goners, man. And I've always kind of been the behind the scenes quiet guy.
Right.
And I've come to learn that there's different forms and levels of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I never really valued my leadership until the last couple of years. And I do think that the Modern Day Night Project was kind of the catalyst for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't the loudest, biggest, most vocal guy there, but I was freaking consistent.
Me too.
And I would do my best to not show weakness. Like that was I got checked a couple times from Steve and a couple other people where my body language was just screaming negativity during some of the evolutions where I thought I was going to literally die. I had my first panic attack ever at MDK, by the way.
What evolution did you, what panic?
The gym one.
The gym one, yeah.
Where they literally had us take off all the weights, put them on the floor strategically, and then we had to pick them all up again in a certain way, or else we were going to do it all over again. Like that in of itself was freaking hard. And then, they had us doing like bear crawls with weights on our backs and stuff like that. But the thing that got me was remember that big dumbbell with that?
Yeah.
With it was like a grip trainer.
Right.
And Steve was like, if anybody can pick this up, then we'll be done with this evolution. If you guys can't, then we're doing it all over again. And when he said that, I was already like at my limit for the day. Like my legs were shaking. Like I was just, dude, I was hurt. Because that was like our probably 50-ish to 60-ish of no sleeping and just
no food.
Nothing. Yeah. And some of our strongest guys went there to do it. I have baby hands.
Yeah.
So like I was already like, guys, if you can get me through this, I'll make it up for you. But like I have no chance unless I can use two hands. And some of our strongest guys went to go do that, and they couldn't do it. And literally, Steve was about to just be like, "All right, it's time." As these guys are going through this, I feel numbness going, like literally numbness, starting to do this and shaking, and then it started here and here. And they talk about rhabdo at MDK because most people that have to go to the hospital, it's because there's just severe dehydration.
Right.
So I thought that's what was happening. So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this is how I'm going out. I'm almost there. And I'm just grinding in my head. And so one of my guys that I became friends with, Juan, I'm like, dude, I think I got rhabdo. I don't know what's going on. And he looks at me and he's like, you need to just go talk to the nurse, the medics. And so I go to the medics and I'm just, guys, I don't know what's going on. I'm going numb, and they're like, hold on. And so they do their tests and stuff like that. And they smile. They literally, like, I'll never forget. They're like, dude, you're fine. I'm like, I don't feel fine. They're like, you're having a panic attack. I'm like, what's that? I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
They're like, you just need to sit down for a few minutes. And I'm like, can I do that? And they're like, sit down for a few, okay.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got through that, and thank God, one of the guys, again, a very unassuming guy where I think most people wrote him off. He was like, well, I'll give it a try. And he goes over there and literally grabs it, picks it up, looks at all of us, drops it, no problem. And we're like, bro, why didn't you say something? He's like, oh, I do jujitsu at home, and those are those grip things. He's like, I knew I did. I'm like, oh, okay. Could you have done that 30 minutes ago? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And so that was my panic attack, because I literally, so that was probably one of the biggest and best values I got from MDK. And I'm curious your thoughts on this too. Is there was a handful of evolutions where we're getting ready to do it, and I'm like, this is not humanly possible. Like this is impossible.
Yeah.
And then we start, and then it's literally just like focus on the next mile marker. Focus on the next mile marker.
That's the same mindset that I had. And I think you need that in life too, is like that mindset of just one foot, one toe, one anything just to move a little bit forward.
Progress,
just
dude.
progress. And you can't think of that next evolution in terms of, how it's going to be done or finished, but you're just thinking, how am I going to get through this next crawl, my next arm moving forward? That's how I thought.
Yes.
Rolling through the pit. I don't know if anyone knows the pit, but the pit was just dirt.
I learned to love it. I really did.
Really?
At 3 a.m. on my back, looking at the stars after them dunking us in an ice bath when it's already 50 degrees and now we're just crawling on the mud, just looking at the stars, it gave me a lot of time to just think.
Yeah, me too. And
in the suffering.
Same thing. And I thought about just my family. I thought about my wife. I thought about all that stuff. And again, just kind of brought it down to like one arm, one leg, literally just moving those two types of things and making sure that I was, continuing to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's such the mindset for life, I think. So it's just, you cannot, sometimes there's the mindset of, well, I want this big goal, but how am I going to get there? Well, it's just, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of my thought. And so
I agree. I couldn't agree more. In fact, just recently, I actually changed how I do goals. Because for some reason, like doing annual goals was it just, for me at least, it just like wasn't totally working.
Yeah.
So I came up with like 4 big ass audacious goals, and there's no timeline on them. Right. There's no timeline on them, but I got these 4 big goals. And then my goal every single day, which I got out of 75 Hard, is my power list. And I just need to make sure those 5 things that are on that list for today are in line with my big 4 goals. And as long as that happens and I control that, then I know I'm making progress. Then I know I'm taking that one step forward.
One step forward.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about a little bit about your business and kind of what you actually specialize in, and talk to me about the insurance business and kind of that K through 12 where you kind of have your I say your wheelhouses right there.
Yeah, or niche.
Niche. So
yeah, man. So it's again, I love this industry. I think it's the greatest industry on earth, but there's such a high failure rate, right? And I think that was the problem. And for many of the years, for 14 of my years, even though I was W-2, like I told you about, I was in a results-only working environment, and it was really a self-employed transactional environment, which is what 95% of the industry is in. And it's probably similar to real estate, right? Where it's like, you don't have a vision above and beyond where your next sale's coming from. And then you wake up January 1st and the score's 0-0 and you got to do it all over again.
Correct.
Right? That's not a business. That's self-employed. And there's nothing wrong with that. You make a lot of money doing it, right? But the job still owns you, right? Because if you go on a vacation or get sick or something like that and you're not working, you ain't making money.
Right.
And I knew from an early age, I wanted to be able to create a business in the insurance and financial service space that created renewals and residuals and in perpetual income, right? But it was just like this eluding dream where it's like, I couldn't figure out how to do it, right? In a meaningful, long-term way, okay? And so I won't bore you with all the details, but that's how I ended up hooking up with Appreciation Financial, is because what was unique with them is from day one, like they were focused on building businesses. And they did it within the K through 12 public school space. And outside of what we do for teachers and stuff like that, which is amazing, it's a very underserved niche. They need help. You've got pension systems that got all kinds of problems, but the reality is the pension is only going to make up about half their income. The 95% of the school districts and states outsource their retirement services. So really what that means is they put the onus of the retirement on the teacher to figure it out, right? And I don't know if you know any teachers or educators, but it's like, when are they going to do that? They wake up in the morning, right? They got their own families. They go to school. Right. Just the other day, I was getting a coffee, and I saw a table like this at Starbucks. Papers all over the place. This woman's doing all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I just start talking to her. She's like, "You're a teacher, aren't you?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Man, you're putting in some extra hours." She's like, "This is the only time I got to do it because I got to go pick up my kid from soccer and go do this over there." So it's like, when are they going to have time to figure this stuff out?
Right.
They're not. And they don't. And again, they don't have like an HR person that they can go to talk to. And so that's where we found just a really underserved market that needed help, right? And so it worked out from that perspective. And then from a business perspective, it solved probably the biggest challenge in our space, probably no different your space, is marketing and prospecting, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're selling insurance or financial plans like what we do. It doesn't matter if you're selling homes, selling cars, or selling cardboard boxes. I don't care, right? Assuming you got a product and service that you believe in, right? If you don't have a consistent way to get in front of people that want and need whatever is you're offering, then you're not going to make money, right? And I know a lot of people in our industry that have all kinds of fancy designations, right? PhDs and masters and CLUs and CFPs and CT, blah, blah, and they make no money because they're the smartest people in the room, but you don't have a system to get in front of people, right? That's why marketing is most important. So for us, in areas where we have school district relationships, which, like there's certain states and areas that are really good for us, it solves that problem, right? So now we have a place. So if I'm working with somebody new, right, we've got a phenomenal training program, get them all up to speed, assign them a mentor, but now we have a place to send them to be able to serve a niche where we know everything there is to know about them, right? Versus like the old traditional ways of like write out your project 100 and friends and family and go prospecting.
That's
the
same way in real estate, right?
Yeah.
It's such a general, broad industry. You could go anywhere you want, and just being a generalized real estate agent just does not cut it. I feel in these days.
Have to have marketing. It's like and guess what? For all the big companies, and I'm not going to name names. There's a lot of great companies out there, but like all those companies where they're like, write out your project 100 and whatever. Right? Yeah, like that's not a marketing.
Your sphere of influence, right?
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Like I've sold all my friends and family, but it was on their terms, not mine.
Right.
But the reality is working friends and family, like what a lot of people do in our industry and yours do, that is a plan that benefits the big boys. And that is a short-term plan for you and I. And that's where most people burn out and fail.
I agree.
So
100%.
That's the problem I'm trying to fix.
So what happens when you run out of that circle of friends and that influence of people? Now you've got to go beyond that. And now
what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? And that's kind of where exactly. And
especially now post-COVID when most people are kind of grumpy and don't want to talk to people they don't know.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, just call it what it is.
So that niche, that K through 12, talk to me about it. Of course, I know teachers that are just getting into the business. In fact, I've got a past client that just got her, what is it, an education degree, so she, this would be a perfect candidate for her. Like she does, she's really niched it. I'm not niched, but she understands, teaching, but she doesn't understand her financial pension or anything like that. Yeah. So that's kind of where you come in and say, hey, you've got A, B, C, and D here. You've got options. Yeah. And only 50% of your retirement is going to be taken care of by the state.
So here's the deal, man. Like, I love working with teachers. They're awesome people.
Yeah.
And they deserve to get paid, and they deserve to have a good retirement. They are educating
the future
and developing the future leaders of our great country, right? And so what I try to explain to teachers is, listen, like say what you want about the pension systems and stuff like that. They got their challenges and it is what it is. But here's what I do know. They ain't going anywhere. And they are very valuable and worthwhile if you leverage them and know how to utilize your pension.
Right.
And assuming you do, or you meet with us and we can teach you how to do that. Like, think about it, bro. For a teacher to put in 30 or 35 years, and let's just say they're going to get 60% of their income in retirement. How much does a teacher make in California? 100 grand? 100 grand.
Yeah.
60% of 100 grand is what? $60,000. Do you know how much money you and I would need to save up to be able to get a paycheck in retirement of 60 grand a year?
I don't. Tell me.
Probably in the neighborhood of like $2 million.
Wow.
So my point is like, the pension systems are valuable and they're freaking awesome, right? And it's great that they'll make up 50 or 60%. We just help them make up the rest.
The 40%.
And then we make sure that we get a really good living benefit life insurance policy to protect them and their family against all the unforeseen stuff that could unravel their plans to get to retirement, if that makes sense. Real simple and basic stuff. Like, I think most people and most professionals in the financial service space overcomplicate things that don't need to be overcomplicated.
I'll be honest. I love financial stuff too. I get going and I'm like, wow, that's just complicated. And so, and then you kind of just set it aside. You don't even think about it because it's so complicated. You just need to, in layman's terms, to break it down. And So I think that's kind of what you do. You actually just take these teachers and say, hey, look, here's a pension, but beyond that, here's a life insurance plan that I really recommend you do. And talk to me about a good life insurance policy or anything like that.
Yeah, so we're big believers in living benefit life insurance. So everybody understands what life insurance is. There's term insurance and there's permanent insurance, and we don't need to geek out on this kind of stuff. But like traditional life insurance is what? I pay insurance company X dollars a month, and if I die, my family gets 250 grand, 500 grand, whatever it is, right? With living benefit life insurance, the way that I kind of explain it is it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of an insurance policy. There's multiple uses for it.
Okay.
And if you get a permanent insurance policy, and it all depends on budget and stuff like that, and you have a permanent living benefit life insurance policy, yes, if you die, your family's going to get taken care of, right? But now if God forbid something were to happen to you, if you were to get sick or disabled or heart attack, stroke, cancer, paralysis, blind, like think of all the catastrophic stuff minus death that could completely bankrupt or derail a family. These policies will pretty much protect most of it. And what they do is the insurance company allows you to access your death benefit while you're alive to pay for medical expenses or that, stem cell treatment or something in, Costa Rica or whatever, right? Like they literally give you the money for you to do what you need to do to take care of bills, take care of yourself or whatever. And then listen, good Lord willing, if you're healthy and everything's fine and you don't die prematurely or anything like that, come retirement time, you can start taking your money out in a tax-free way. So again, it's not a matter of if I'm going to use these benefits, it's now actually a matter of how I'm going to use them.
So you said tax-free way. I mean, the only thing I know of is a tax-free is a Roth IRA. So you're saying there's actually life insurance benefits where you can actually get the money tax-free.
Big time, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you look at any big major corporation or bank or any major investors, they all own life insurance. They all own life, because a Roth IRA, you can put $7,000 a year into, I think right now, maybe depending on your age. That's not going to get you rich, right? You can stuff a lot of money into a life insurance policy that is tied to an index that could earn a very good and conservative interest rate and make a lot more money and put a lot more than $7,000 a year in it over time, right? And everybody, it comes down to personal preference. You know what I mean? I don't think life insurance is the end all be all,
right?
But I do think it's a very appropriate way to kind of diversify somebody's own investments and stuff like that. And then oftentimes, sometimes, bro, it's personal preference. Some people have the belief that taxes are going to continue to go up and taxes are going to be crazy. And so the more I can put away into tax-free stuff now, so I don't have to worry about the tax bill later, then that's what I want to do.
So you have your, as a K through 12 teacher, you have your pension, right? You've got this there. Give me the top 3 things that you would say a teacher should do in order to have 100% of their retirement, to fill in that 40% gap.
Yeah. So number one thing they need to do is get very clear on how their pension works, because you have to be able to maximize those pension benefits. Right. That will be their number one retirement vehicle.
Well, let me ask this. Does every school district have a different...
Every state
has a different pension plan.
Has a different pension system with different rules and different everything, right?
Okay.
So get with us or get with somebody that actually knows it. Most financial advisors don't understand the intricacies of a pension system or how it works within the K through 12 space with 403Bs and all that kind of stuff. Most don't. And so get with somebody who does, right? Or call the state. I don't know if they're going to give you the advice that you need, but that's step number one, okay? And again, keeping it super simple, man, right? Because listen, most people I talk to, they're not trying to become gazillionaires. In a perfect world, they want to be able to maintain the same quality of life that they have right now, and they just want the peace of mind knowing that it's going to be there and it's going to be guaranteed for them in retirement.
Right.
So when you look at what we do with a pension system, how we make up the gap in income with one of their district supplemental retirement plans, right? That will typically make up the gap so they can retire with full retirement income. And then, like I said, We do our best to structure a living benefit life insurance policy to take care of and protect all of the unforeseen stuff that could ruin those plans.
I was looking on the website, American Financial. You guys have, I guess, subsidiaries in every single state. Is that the right word? You guys have, you're kind of located in every single state. Do you personally, do you just specialize in California, or do you know all, different, like Florida, Texas?
Yeah. So we are nationwide. There's certain states we do business in, and there's certain states that we don't.
Okay.
But like most all the main states, we have offices and people and representation there.
If they called you today, you would know, you'd be basically an expert in pensions for California, not necessarily like,
Correct.
Again, Wyoming or anything.
Yeah. If there is a teacher listening, I would refer them to like I've got a guy that's been a financial advisor working with teachers, literally working specifically with teachers here for the last 15 years. I would have them talk to him. We got, Susan, who runs our Florida operations, that knows everything there is to know about the Florida pension system, the drop program, and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
To know that they actually, if there's someone out there that is actually in a different state, they can call your company.
Correct.
And actually have a specialist that actually specializes in that state specifically. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, because every state is different.
Different, yeah. Right? Let's go back here to the mindset stuff and starting your own business and kind of the entrepreneurial thought of doing such. When you get a new insurance agent and he comes to you and says, "Hey, look, I want to be in the insurance game." I go back to these traits that you say there is no real traits, but I mean, what should they do today to start the escalation or the rise of their business? What mistakes have you made? What 3 big mistakes have you made that have kind of held you back from, like, if you would have known this, you would have scaled your business immediately?
Yeah. So, man, that's a deep question. I wish I had time to prepare on that. But I would say, listen, it's first things first, you have to focus on yourself, right? And I define that as self-leadership.
I love that. I love that a lot.
If you can't lead yourself, then you ain't going to be able to lead your family. You ain't going to be able to lead your clients. And you're not going to be able to lead
100%.
a team or people that rely on you. So what does self-leadership mean? Well, to me, that means leading from the front. That means leading by example, doing what you say you're going to do, living with integrity. It means a lot of things. Waking up like I did today at 4:14 in the morning, not hitting my snooze alarm, even though I wanted to sleep in because it was freaking cold. It was raining outside, but I got up anyways because my purpose and passion is stronger than my temporary feelings, right? Self-leadership to me is taking care of my priorities, taking care of my health, taking care of my fitness, making sure that I'm a professional, making sure that at least in my world, if I'm sitting in a room, I'm the best. I'm the best that I can be in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't like it when people are better than me at what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a long-winded way, I think that's what self-leadership is. And I think it starts there. And for a lot of people, that's probably a pretty tough pill to swallow right now.
I came across this Harvard study, and I read it a while back, and I can't remember if I saw it. I think I read it. It was a Harvard study that said people that succeed, there's 3 main traits. I don't know if you know these, but they have a superiority complex. They have a massive insecurity. So, let's go back here. Superiority complex, massive insecurity, and they have impulse control. So these 3 things.
So I've heard that before, and all of that resonates with me, except the whole superiority complex.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Really, what it's saying.
Maybe that's a problem of mine, but I
wouldn't say superiority. I don't know why they use superiority complex, because I think you think that I'm better than anyone else. I think what it is that they have a mindset of, I'm going to be that best person in the room.
That's what I was going to say. I think maybe the better way to say that is they have a high self-efficacy belief in themselves,
right?
Which I think is important, right? And again, in order for you to have confidence in yourself, how do you do that? Do you look in the mirror and start saying I am affirmations? I don't think that works. Might sound good and feel good. I have my own affirmations, don't get me wrong, but I believe the only way you can build true, legitimate confidence and belief in yourself is through self-leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, think about it, bro. Like, just today, okay? What if I would have hit that snooze button? Well, I would have got up later, which means I wouldn't have. So that's one loss already for the day.
Correct.
Then I wouldn't have been able to get into my morning routines. And I've been reading the Bible lately and doing all kinds. So that probably would have got railed. 2 losses for the day. Now I'm probably pretty grumpy. So by the time my kids and wife wakes up, I don't know if I'll have the best attitude towards them. That could be 3 losses for the day.
Right.
And if I keep the streak of L's going, might be late to show up here, right? Which would make me feel bad because I'm wasting your time and his time. So like you could rack up 5 or 6 losses before 8 a.m. and not even know it. And then you're wondering why you're feeling like an ass and why you're feeling crappy.
The best way to say it is keeping your promises to yourself, essentially.
I agree.
Keeping those promises to yourself.
I think it's keeping promises to yourself and having high standards.
And keeping those standards and having the integrity to do so, which is difficult to do. And you're right. It starts with making your bed. It starts with getting up at 4 and not hitting the snooze button.
For certain people, man.
Yeah.
For certain people, it does.
Yeah.
I know a lot of very successful people that they don't wake up at 4 and do ice baths every day and stuff like I got into that mindset of I've got to do all of these things. I've got to do this. I've got to ice bath. I've got to do this. And then it's like I wait, 3 hours later, I'm like, I haven't even gotten shit done for work. You know
That's
what I mean?
so funny.
You know what I mean?
I've done the same thing to myself. I created this morning routine that actually I think what I was doing was I had the ice baths, I had the workout, I had the 2 coffees, I had all this. What I thought in my mind was, what I needed to do in order to prepare to get to work. Bullshit. Just set aside all that crap and just start working or get on to that one thing that you need to do for the day.
100%. So I think it's Alex Hormozy that talks about that.
That's correct.
He makes some jokes about it. And honestly, I'd have to give his content some of that credit because as I was thinking through things, I'm like, I don't have to do all of these things, right? Like I'll do it. I have an ice bath at my house and I have an infrared sauna and I'll do those things. But it's like, if I miss a fucking ice bath, does that mean I'm not going to have a successful day? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yes, man, it's keeping promises to yourself. It's having high standards and really surrounding yourself with good and positive people, right? Like keeping your environment clean. And so back to like the original question of like, hey, if I was talking to a new person entering our business, those would be the things that I would focus on before we even start talking about products and sales and like the what, the why is more important, the how is more important. And so I just look at it a little differently.
Self-discipline, self-control, the integrity thing, but really just developing your own self, right? Own self-development is probably the most key thing that you can do in business. I think when you start there, everything else kind of radiates or
I think it's the most key thing you can do and also the most misunderstood.
I agree.
Probably even misunderstood for me to a certain degree still. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you have gone into the same like self-development, like freaking rabbit hole.
Yeah. I'm still in that rabbit hole today.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I'm kind of sure, we all are. But yeah, I think some people honestly have a hard time like focusing on themselves, maybe because they feel like
it's painful.
Like it's painful, or sometimes people think it's selfish.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know what I mean? And sometimes they're just not in a conducive and supporting environment to make that happen. Like that's a really important thing. So any time that I bring somebody on, I typically ask to speak with their spouse. Because listen, like my wife's been with me from day one and she has been my biggest supporter and cheerleader. And I can tell you 11 years ago, whatever it was, when I made the jump to start my own business, if she wasn't on the same page and if I didn't have her total buy-in and support, I don't think it would have happened.
Talk to me about how important it is to have a wife or pick someone, and how important it is to pick the right person for your marriage.
Is that a loaded question?
No, because it could be, she could be your advocate or she could be your detriment. It's everything, right?
It's literally that, in my opinion, that is the most important decision you can make. And listen, like I don't have a lot of advice to give on this because I think God just blessed me. I literally met my wife the summer of my senior year of high school. We got married in our 20s. You might not like this when this is published, but it's like I got married because I thought it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. do you think I really knew the depths of what marriage and love and commitment and what starting a family, like I didn't understand, like I had an idea
Too
of
young.
it and I loved her, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like, I somehow just got lucky because
Yeah.
I married a woman who was freaking such a badass.
Supportive.
Oh yeah. Just, she's, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dude, she's my best friend. She's very supportive. She's wickedly smart. She's the best mom on the planet. Like, that was one of the cool things I've known, like, literally since high school. Her goal in life was to be a mom. And I thought that was pretty rad.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's everything. And I'll give you a quick story, man. I was talking to somebody a month ago, and we were kind of going through like the interviewing process, so to speak. And he made the comment to me. He's like, you know, I'm not sure. I'll have to talk with my wife and get her on board. But without saying it, basically said he doesn't think his wife's going to support him. I just stopped it right there. I'm like, sounds like you've got more important conversations and things that you need to have with her than this business. And and I would suggest you do that. And then if things change and you want to have a conversation down the road, let's have the conversation. But that's, I'm not going to give somebody advice on their marriage and stuff like that. But that was just like a massive red flag, right?
Right.
I don't want to set somebody up for failure.
No, I had the same experience. I mean, I was a W-2 employee, and then I decided to get, basically do my own business and start my own company in real estate.
Yeah,
And I had a supportive wife. I mean, basically saying,
how many years ago did you do that?
It's been 8 years now.
Okay.
8 years.
Sweet.
So I've been doing this about 8 years, which has been great. But when I first made that jump, boy, was that scary, because I went from a W-2,
the
getting
hardest thing.
2 weeks, every 2 weeks I got a paycheck, and complacency, right? But I wanted more in life, and she saw me struggling with the mental fact that I was kind of just stuck.
Yeah.
And so I thought, hey, I'm going to make this jump. And she was super supportive about it and was just
That's
a
awesome.
great person
I
to
love it,
actually,
yeah.
and the cheerleader all the way, even till to this day. And she says, why do you work so hard? I work so hard because I'm driven to do it, but I'm also driven to be successful with you.
So you know what's crazy, man? On the topic of awesome wives, which it sounds like you and I have, bro, for so many years, I was told, separate church from state. Don't bring your wife into the business. You don't mix family and business and stuff like that. And I just thought that was the right advice, right? So I never involved my wife in my business. Again, she's very supportive and stuff like that, but like I never really talked to her about our business, never really asked for help or advice or any of that kind of stuff up until a couple years ago. And then more recently, last year, I actually brought her into my business.
Wow.
And within a matter of a couple weeks, I realized how much of an idiot I was for listening to that advice. And the reality was the people that were telling me that their advice didn't like their spouses. And so it was such a good learning lesson of like, man, you got to be very careful to the people you surround yourself with and the advice that you take in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that she's helping me in my business and I talk to her about everything, I mean, like I joke about it with her, but it honestly is the truth. Like she's so much more wildly talented than me. Like if she wanted to get into the business with me, she'd be a 7-figure producer and agency, like no problem.
I struggle with that because I struggle with the fact that I've got so much going on in my mind, and the bads, there's always goods and bads in sales, and one moment you're on a high, and the next moment you're just got freaking clipped on.
That's why you got to lean into them for that, man.
And I've always thought my mindset is I protect my wife from the bad. But then I also ask her, I also get her advice about some of the good. So I always bring her in. I've got to talk to her more about my personal feelings, I guess, kind of how I'm feeling. Because I struggle with that, to protect her from the bad.
I think women have obviously their brains work differently, and they have such a different perspective on things that it's been so helpful for me to bring her into the fold on everything. I like she's now my go-to for advice, thoughts, feedback. Hey, let me bounce this off you, especially when it comes to like interpersonal relationships and people and stuff like that. Cause they've got like a different, like sixth sense, in my opinion, with that. Maybe it's not all women, but with my wife, that's how it is. And I just think it's very valuable and it's helpful.
Maybe it's the fact that they actually give birth, but I mean, the fact that they can deal with so much adversity. I think women can deal with such adversity, and they have the ability to do so many different things. So anyways, kind of wrapping this whole thing up, if people want to actually reach out to you, specifically school teachers, where can they actually reach you? What's a good website? What's a good phone number? Anything like that they could kind of contact you?
Yeah, man. So I'm on Instagram. That's probably a pretty easy one to look for me, Chris Reid, Reid. I don't know if we could link our stuff or whatever. You could find me on Appreciation Financial's website. I just opened up my own brand and agency, which is Epic Agency Partners, where you could learn all about me and what our agencies do. Because like I said, I really feel like it's become my passion and purpose to show people how to build businesses in my favorite industry and business in the world. And I think over the last 24 years, I've figured things out the hard way. That's how I figure things out, is by effing it up and making all the mistakes. I'm not blessed with the gift of like, it just takes me a while. And so I believe that I've kind of like done things the hard way so that new person doesn't have to. You know what I mean?
One thing is, talk to me about failure. And then we'll wrap it up from here. Talk to me about your mishaps and failing in life and having those little failure moments, but then actually regrouping yourself and moving forward. What is failure to you?
Failure to me is like,
because you're guaranteed to fail.
And especially in our business, man, it's honestly, failure is the price of education. It's the price of admission.
I think people are afraid to fail.
I'm still afraid to fail.
Right.
I think just through experience and going through reps of it, I'm quicker to action. I'm quicker to mentally recovering from failure because I now have a different perspective and perception on it. You know what I mean? Which benefits me because like give you an example, like, 10 years ago, if there was like a massive issue in business, like that could have mentally taken me out of the game for a couple days or a week or something like that. Now that same thing happens. It's like, okay, I deal with it. And, typically in like 10 minutes, I'm like on to the next thing. Right.
Yeah.
And the problem's the same, right? We've just over time become better at like managing it and dealing with it. You know what I mean? So for me, failure is a necessity in life. I'm really trying to impart those lessons right now with my kids because they're playing sports competitively, softball and baseball, which arguably has the most failure involved. You know what I mean? So it's great when you're the teacher because sometimes you actually like learn the lessons maybe a little better and more intimately when you're now teaching somebody else how to do it. And sometimes nice slice of humble pie because you keep preaching these things, but then you're like realizing, oh crap, well, I'm actually not doing that myself right now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
I look at failure. Failure is you're going to fail. I agree. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not it takes me a while to get there, but I'm going to get there. And tenacity and consistency is what I think of those things. But failure is more of a stepping stone. I've come to look at it more as a stepping stone of where I can see myself and then where I want to go. Things I need to improve upon instead of looking at it as failure is so bad. I don't, like, how can I do that? What did happen to me? And put the blanket over your head and kind of go back to bed.
Yeah, go back to like victimhood.
Yeah, right? Victimhood.
It's a bad place to be. It's a bad place to be.
Let's wrap it up here, man. Again, thank you so much for coming on in. I had a great conversation with you about leadership, and I love it. I love the fact that people are trying to get into sales. They should, either come to you or come to me to talk about it.
For sure, man. Like, I think there's a lot of ways that it could be done, and we talked about this earlier. The idea of freedom, right, which is the core ethos of mine. That's worth fighting and dying for, obviously. Not to get altruistic or anything, but it's like I don't know any other way to create legitimate time and financial freedom than through business ownership. And I think there's nothing more worthy than that. And we have people from all walks of life that have came in and become wildly successful. And so again, I always look for, are they hungry? Do they have the tenacity and grit, right? Like, have they faced adversity in the past? And that's a good indicator for me. Are they humble? Are they coachable? Are they accountable? Are they hardworking? These are all basic things that we're all in control of. I haven't looked at a resume in 10 years. I don't need to. Those are the things, right? And they come from all walks of life. Like Susan, who I talked to you about in Florida, she's a multiple six-figure agent with us. Leader, actually. I'm sorry. She came to us 9 years ago when she was laid off from NASA. She'd worked there for 25 years in administration. They laid her off. And then bam, the mortgage meltdown happened and she lost half her 401k. She got divorced. So you got a 55-year-old lady, and she had to reinvent herself. And I promise you, if she would have applied for any corporate sales job, she would have failed any assessment test on the planet, right? Because they don't measure those things. But she is the most hardworking, tenacious, just an incredible heart. And those are the things that matter. And now 10 years later, she's multiple six-figure business owner, just absolutely crushing it. And so I go through that story a lot because, again, like,
you can't find that on a resume.
No, you can't, man. And they all comes in, it all comes in different shapes and sizes. And it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing I look for is, does somebody truly have the hunger and desire? And if they do, then guess what? Whether it's what I do or you do, we can teach everything else. Like, let me go on a tangent here real quick, because I was literally talking to my kids about this, because I've proposed this to my family. We still have to talk about it, but I want them to start putting dedicated time and effort in every week to learning AI. ChatGPT, right? AI is going to replace 1 billion jobs, and it is going to completely revolutionize education, our world, and how we do business.
Correct.
And it's our job as a parent to get our kids prepared for the real world. And so I'm kind of seeing this, and my kids are 10 and 14. I want them using ChatGPT. We might be getting them a course and stuff like that to go through that, for them. Like, these things are important. I completely got off tangent of what I was going to talk about, though. So it goes back to, like, the hunger, right?
Right.
Like, bro, let's be real. If somebody has the hunger, there's no excuses on how not to become a proficient professional in anything they want to do. We have YouTube, we have Google, we have ChatGPT, we have access to the best people in the world at our fingertips, because most of them are on YouTube, most of them have their own courses or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the ability to learn something still just comes down to hunger.
Correct.
I
was just talking to someone about this just the other day. I said, we were talking about college education. I said, unless you're becoming like a lawyer or a doctor, something specific in that manner, you can pretty much learn anything online. There's so much knowledge out there. You don't need to have that.
I don't know if I'll send my kids to college unless they get scholarships.
Isn't that a kind of a mind twist? 10 years ago where you had to go to college, or 15 years ago where you had to go to college in order to make yourself, presentable to some employer. Now, I think you're looking at different qualities of people, and you're looking more of that mindset of that again, the tenacity, the grit. Do they 100%. Have these things? Because this is what they need in order to learn and become successful in life. Not that stupid piece of paper that said, yeah, you went through all these hoops. And
110%. Yeah.
Again, so I think you're hitting on something with that ChatGPT and then all YouTube. And there's so much education out there. Do you want to succeed?
Yeah.
And
if I was 17 today, and I was getting into insurance and financial, like, I look at how fast I could collapse timeframes of learning, education with the access to the resources we have right now. It's unreal. And that's why I'm getting excited about business. Yeah. I've always been excited about business, right? That's the cool thing, right? Like, a lot of people, like, what are the statistics? Like, almost 70% of the workforce is disengaged, meaning they are just not passionate about their job, which means every Monday they wake up and they're like, ah, shit, it's Monday, right?
Yeah, I was one of those.
Yeah. And it's like, the weekends are for them to recharge.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that's a crappy way to live. And here's what I can promise everybody. If you start a business for yourself that you believe in, that you're fired up about, and something that's actually providing a value and service to the world, you will have unlimited energy.
I agree with this.
Unlimited energy, because you know that you're building something for yourself, your family, and your future.
I just hit on this with my wife. She said the other day, why do you wake up so early? Why do you work so hard? Why do you, there's so many, really, I'm not working. I love what I do.
Exactly.
I love what I do. I love what I do. I wake up every morning. I've got this pit in my stomach, but that pit in my stomach is to be better than I was yesterday. It's to progress, do better than I was.
I think, man.
I forget the saying, but if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that is completely
100%.
True.
That, and like, I go back to the Bible verse of, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And I think that's a big problem right now in today's world, is people don't have a lot of hope and vision, right? The world's been crazy and chaotic for the last 4 or 5 years. I think for a lot of people, that's the big problem. They don't have a vision. They don't have hope. And when you're apathetic, right, you're just going to cruise through life. And it's a shame. Man.
I've turned 50, man, and I'm really butting up against, the fact that, there's really 30 more summers I really have, right? I look at it that way. I only got 35 more summers because, average age is.
Bro, you look like you're 40 first of all. 50 is the new 40. And the way technology's going, we're going to be living to like 120. So you're good.
No, but I mean, the fact that you got to press forward, you got to do what you can in such a compressed time. We're not here that long, and you better love you better love what you do. Because if not, it's just slavery every day.
It is, man. Again, not to get like cliche or whatever, but it's like, as far as I know, we only got one life to live. And what a shame that would be to not waste it and to not be doing the things that gives you passion and purpose and the fire in the belly. Like, the waste, man.
I love having you today, man. Thank you so much. If you're a school teacher, make sure you talk to Chris about your pension and
or if you want to start a business.
Yes.
Or if you're a school teacher and you want to take those very valuable skills, which is education, and potentially use them in a more beneficial way for you financially into what we do in our business. Some of our top income earners were former educators.
Wow. Okay.
But think about it. Like, it's not rocket science, right? They have a passion for teaching and serving. What do I do and what do you do? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Yeah. So we've had some really amazing success stories with teachers and educators and coaches, and it's awesome to see them, and again, you got a lot of teachers that are retiring. You got a lot of teachers that they loved what they did 20 or 30 years ago, but now the game has changed and it's just not fun anymore.
Right.
Oh, I can show you a fun way to get back into education.
All right. Good contact information for you. What's a good website again? One more time.
The easiest one for me is epicagencypartners.com.
Okay.
Or I'm an easy communicator, so feel free to shoot me a text message as long as you're not a weirdo. 916-718-0601. Happy to talk. Happy to help. That's what I'm here for.
Great having you on the podcast, man.
Brother.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
You too.